The National Assembly is not deliberately delaying a legislative process for a trade deal with the U.S. South Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Hyun told his American counterpart Marco Rubio. South Korea logged its largest ever annual current account surplus in 2025, thanks to strong exports on the back of robust chip demand. President Lee Jae-myung attended a groundbreaking ceremony for a railroad in South Korea's Gyeongsangnam-do province, where he once again stressed the importance of balanced regional growth for national sustainability. South Korea's top diplomat Cho Hyun has told U.S. officials that Seoul isn't purposely dragging its feet on crucial trade legislation, addressing fresh American worries about potential tariff increases. Kim Bo-kyung reports.
South Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Hyun has explained to his U.S. counterpart, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, that Seoul is not deliberately delaying legislation related to a special bill on U.S. investment. Cho told the press at South Korea's embassy in Washington, D.C. on Thursday local time that he had made the remarks during a meeting with Rubio earlier this week. According to Cho, ahead of the talks, Rubio said that while South Korea-U.S. relations are not in a bad state, he wanted to share that there was unfavorable sentiment within the U.S. side regarding the implementation of trade-related commitments. Though trade and investment issues are not directly his responsibility, Rubio said he raised the issue because he oversees overall bilateral ties and suggested the two sides manage the situation through closer diplomatic communication to prevent that negative sentiment from spilling over into other areas. Cho responded by emphasizing the Korean government's commitment to implementing bilateral agreements.
Rubio cautioned against delays in implementing trade commitments spilling over into broader ties, and we reaffirmed Korea's firm commitment and denied any intentional legislative delay.
He further stressed to Rubio that the joint fact sheet rests on economic and security pillars, and that implementation timelines could vary by issue. While emphasizing that security cooperation should not be hindered by trade-related concerns, he asked Rubio to encourage relevant U.S. agencies to fully engage in three key areas of bilateral cooperation: nuclear energy, nuclear-powered submarines, and shipbuilding. Rubio agreed and said he would closely follow the issues. Meanwhile, Cho also met U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, where Greer reportedly underlined the importance of Seoul implementing progress quickly, not only on U.S. investments, but also on issues related to non-tariff barriers. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
And the White House is walking back expectations of an imminent tariff hike on South Korean goods, saying it has yet to set a timeline for Trump's threatened increase. Moon Hae-dun tells us more.
The White House says it has not yet decided when higher tariffs threatened by U.S. President Donald Trump on South Korean goods would take effect, leaving Seoul facing continued uncertainty as high-level negotiations remain stalled. Speaking at a briefing on Thursday local time, White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt said she did not have a specific timeline for raising tariffs on South Korea from 15% back to 25%, despite the president's earlier warning. She added that the administration's trade team would provide further clarification, signaling that internal discussions are still underway. Trump publicly criticized delays in South Korea's legislative process tied to a bilateral trade agreement and warned he could reinstate higher duties on Korean goods. That move would roll back concessions Washington had offered in exchange for large-scale South Korean investment commitments in the U.S. In response, South Korea's top trade officials rushed to Washington for emergency talks, while Foreign Minister Cho Hyun continues meetings with U.S. policymakers in an effort to prevent the tariff hike. Despite those efforts, Seoul has yet to secure a clear reversal, and government officials say U.S. agencies are still discussing whether and how the tariff increase would be formally announced. Meanwhile, concerns are growing in Seoul that the tariff dispute is spilling into the security arena. National Security Advisor Wi Sang-lak warned that renewed tariff pressure is shaking the broader diplomatic framework South Korea has built with the United States, China, and Japan. In an interview with Gyeongyang Shinmun, Wi said follow-up security consultations with Washington, including talks on nuclear-powered submarines and nuclear fuel issues, have slowed since President Trump revived the tariff threat. He added that multiple trade and regulatory disputes, including digital trade rules and a data breach case involving US-listed e-commerce firm Coupang, are further complicating relations. We cautioned that economic and security issues are now becoming intertwined, urging Seoul to respond carefully while maintaining coordination with its key ally. 문혜련, Arirang News.
With the continued rise of prices for memory chips helping South Korea's exports, the current account stayed in the black in December last year. This also led to a record annual current account surplus. Kim Do-yeon reports.
According to the Bank of Korea on Friday, the country's total surplus for 2025 reached $123.05 billion. This figure is an all-time high, as it smashes the previous record set back in 2015 by roughly $17.95 billion. While the semiconductor supercycle was the undeniable protagonist, the central bank notes that the supporting cast was just as important.
Merchandise export grew for 2 consecutive months. IT products, led by semiconductors and communication devices, remained robust, while non-IT sectors like machinery, precision instruments, and pharmaceuticals also expanded.
Driven by this broad-based growth, the goods account posted a surplus of nearly $138.1 billion. Exports alone jumped to over $718 billion, a historic high. The momentum peaked at the very end of the year. In December alone, the surplus hit $18.7 billion, the highest monthly figure ever recorded. This represents a jump of nearly $6 billion from November, extending the country's winning streak to 32 consecutive months in the black. However, the report wasn't entirely positive, meaning the record comes despite obstacles. The services account remained in the red with a deficit of $34.5 billion. While receipts reached $150 billion, payments driven largely by overseas travel exceeded $184 billion. On top of that, financial outflows were massive. Residents' overseas stock investments surged to a record $114.3 billion.
The surge in overseas stock investment by residents acted as a factor that significantly offset the effect of the current account surplus on the foreign exchange market.
Looking ahead, the central bank expects the surplus trend to continue in 2026, driven by the ongoing AI boom, though it warns that external uncertainties such as U.S. trade policies remain a key variable. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
The semiconductor industry is the only key sector projected to see significant job growth in the first half of 2026. That's according to data released on Friday by the Korea Employment Information Service and the Korea Institute for Advancement of Technology. The report said, fueled by booming global demand for AI memory chips, the sector is expected to add 4,000 jobs, a 2.8% rise. While automakers and shipbuilders will likely post minor gains of roughly 2,000 and 1,000 jobs, they are classified as largely maintaining their current levels. In contrast, the textile and metal processing sectors face the sharpest downturns, each shedding 3,000 positions as production slows. The Kospi's journey through 5,000 is proving to be a bumpy one. After a week marked by trading days swinging up and down by over 5%, experts are now weighing in on whether this is a healthy correction or a sign of deeper trouble. Park Chun-han explains.
South Korea's benchmark Kospi delivered one of its most dramatic roller coaster weeks in recent memory, with 3 sessions seeing moves of more than 5% either up or down, triggering a sidecar that halts program trading for 5 minutes. Upon opening on Friday, the local market saw another downturn as the index fell below 5,000 again, which triggered yet another sell-side sidecar at 9:06 a.m. amid continued global tech pressure and a weaker won. By the Kospi's close on Friday at 5,089.14 points, down 1.44% from Thursday, the index had recovered part of its intraday losses, though the week was marked by brutal volatility, plunging on Monday, rising on Tuesday and Wednesday, and retreating again on Thursday and Friday. The volatility was mainly driven by global investors' skepticism over AI investment sustainability, U.S. rate policy uncertainty, and risk aversion moves against speculative assets like Bitcoin and precious metals.
Domestically, the benefits from the semiconductor sector are still carrying through to some extent. However, Korea's stock market cannot fully decouple from the movements of the U.S. market. With U.S. stocks showing signs of weakness recently, combined with foreign investors' less supportive fund flows, these factors are contributing to heightened volatility in the local market.
Domestically, while semiconductor tailwinds persist and individual investors showed resilience, foreign outflows and currency volatility amplified the moves. Also, as one economics professor noted, the market's rapid prior run-up made a correction inevitable.
Kospi has been, rising so dramatically, for the last, I think, 6 months, the price went up almost 100%. So the greatest, surge in Kospi has been necessitated, because of such a great rise. So I think correction is necessary, for the good of the Kospi market.
Looking forward, volatility is likely to stay elevated. While experts remain constructive on the long-term outlook, caution is warranted in the near term as investors closely watch corporate earnings, Federal Reserve signals, and $1 movements. Over the longer run, a rebound in confidence in the AI cycle and resilient demand for Korean chips could help the index stabilize and move higher, but sharp near-term swings remain a clear risk. Park Junan, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung attended the groundbreaking ceremony of a long-awaited railway project that will dramatically cut travel time between Seoul and South Korea's southern regions. Now, the project is a part of his push for balanced regional growth, which he has called essential to the country's economic survival. Our Blue House correspondent Song Hyun reports.
A journey that now takes nearly 5 hours by car will soon be cut to under 3. That's how travel time between Seoul and Goje, a city on South Korea's southern coast, is expected to change. Ground was broken on the long-delayed Southern Inland Railway project on Friday. President Lee Jae-myung called it far more than just another rail line.
수도권의 모든 것이 집중된 일극 체제에서 벗어나 사람과 지역을 잇고 기회를 연결하며 지역의 성장 동력을 만들어내는 국토 대전환의 시작입니다.
First proposed in 1966, construction of the railway stalled for 6 decades due to concerns about economic feasibility. Scheduled to open in 2031, the 7.1 trillion won project, worth roughly $4.8 billion, will link Kimcheon in Gyeongsangbuk-do province with Goje in Gyeongsangnam-do. President Lee says the line will help unlock new growth opportunities.
남해안의 관광은 세계적 수준으로 도약하고 이는 곧 지역 상권의 부활과 수많은 일자리 창출로 이어질 것입니다. 철도가 지나는 곳마다 들어서는 산업단지들은 경북과 경남 곳곳을 청년이 돌아오는 활기찬 도시로 만들어낼 것입니다.
Regional development outside the capital area is one of President Lee's top policy priorities this year. He reiterated that commitment during a town hall meeting with residents of Gyeongsangnam-do province later in the day.
재정 분야에서도 지방에 똑같은 조건이 더 많은 재정을 투입한다. 산업 배치나 아니면 기반 시설 구축에도 지방에 더 많이 하자 이제.
Among the ideas suggested was expanding government support to help the province's key industries, defense, aerospace, and shipbuilding, adopt artificial intelligence in manufacturing to boost competitiveness. 송유진, Arirang News.
South Korea's defense ministry is in early talks with the UN command to better manage the demilitarized zone while maintaining the armistice agreement on the peninsula. An official told reporters on Friday that discussions have been ongoing since 2011. And working-level talks have been underway under Defense Minister Ang Yu-baek to make managing the DMZ more practical and efficient. The ministry proposed this issue for discussion at bilateral defense consultative bodies, including the Korea-U.S. Integrated Defense Dialogue and the Security Consultative Meeting. Officials added that talks are still in the early stages with no concrete progress to report yet. North Korea's human rights situation can be a contentious topic to raise while pursuing a pro-engagement policy. But an independent UN expert says it can be a chance for cooperation. Our Oh Soo-young sat down for a closer conversation.
Human rights can present an opportunity for engagement with North Korea, not a cause for conflict. That's according to Elizabeth Salmon, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in North Korea, during her trip to Seoul. Speaking to the press on Friday, the expert said North Koreans continue to face deterioration of their rights to food, movement, and political and civil freedoms.
The overall human rights situation of the last 10 years showed no improvement, and in many instances degraded, despite reports of a few improvements in some isolated issues.
Ahead of a periodic report next month, Simon reflected on South Korea's latest policy to achieve peaceful coexistence with the North. Published Tuesday, the policy spotlights humanitarian cooperation in a more dovish than confrontational approach to human rights. While backing the push for engagement, Simon stressed that human rights should still be front and center of any dialogue with Pyongyang. But it can be raised not as a problem, but an opportunity to improve the lives of North Korean citizens.
We cannot put left human rights aside because they are not only because the DPRK is a state member of the United Nations, it has a legal obligations concerning human rights, and finally because when we want to speak about peace, we are not only talking about avoiding war, but we are looking for a sustainable peace, which means that that peace can guarantee human rights for everybody.
Now there's renewed speculation about potential top-level engagement between the leaders of North Korea and the United States. And while there's potential for human rights issues to be addressed, is there also a chance of having the human rights agenda cast aside?
Firstly, I think that human rights must not be left aside. But secondly, I think that at least some key points must be stressed during any possible dialogue. Reunification of families, the situation of detainees, prisoners of war and abductees, the possibility of the United Nations to work again inside the DPRK and to provide an independent monitoring mechanisms.
Simon noted with optimism that Pyongyang has accepted almost 50% of recommendations on universal basic rights, including on women.
As the first female Special Rapporteur on North Korean human rights, what stood out to you about the rights of women and children inside North Korea and the unique challenges that they face?
Well, you know, North Korean women are very courageous. They used to work in Jangmadang, these informal markets. They provide resources for their families. Secondly, the majority of escapees going to China, for instance, they are women, around 70% of escapees. So their role is tremendously important, not only as victims, but also like leaders and providing information and proposing creative ways to help their families, to help their children. As a Latin American woman, I am totally convinced that any improvement in human rights cannot be done without women and girls.
Simon also highlighted the rights of North Korean escapees as individuals, not merely victims, putting them at the centre of designing psychological care and social integration. She also called for sustained coordination among civil society, governments and international organisations to strengthen support and information finding. Such efforts should be diplomatized, not politicized, she said, stressing that human rights, peace, security and development are strongly interlinked. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
The world's biggest winter sports festival is drawing closer as the Milan Cortina Olympics approach. Now, South Korean athletes are gearing up to showcase their best performances after months or possibly years of preparation. Our culture correspondent Park Konu is here to tell us more. Welcome back, Konu.
Great to be here, Demi.
So, Konu, the Olympics are just around the corner. Tell us more.
That's absolutely right. While the official opening is just less than 8 hours away, the competition has already begun with its preliminary matches. And for Team Korea, the first action came in mixed doubles curling featuring Kim Sun-young and Chung Young-suk. Despite dropping their first 3 matches, the team is still in contention with several games remaining in the round-robin stage. And in curling, especially in mixed doubles, outcomes can shift quite quickly with countless variables at play, and I can say that for sure because I am a curler myself. And aside from that, there are plenty more events for fans to keep an eye on. So let's first take a look at the key competitions to watch for Team Korea. Team Korea's gold rush begins as soon as the 2026 Winter Games get underway, with the opening ceremony set for Friday at 8 p.m. local time. 71 athletes will compete across 12 sports disciplines over the next 2 weeks. Attention automatically turns to short track speed skating, traditionally one of Korea's strongest events. From 3-time Olympian Cho Hyun to the IOC's recently selected top 10 rising star Im Jong-won, Korea heads onto the ice with medal hopes in 9 events, spanning relays and individual races. With around 30 winter Olympic gold medals in its history, expectations are once again running high. And for good reason, as the country's only 2 gold medals at the previous Beijing Games both came in short track. But Korea will need to stay alert with strong competitors like Canada, showing sharp improvements this season.
Anything can happen in short track speed skating because all it takes is a fall, disqualification. So while Seoul is the favorite among the women for these Olympics, the fact that Korea has a good number of qualified skaters that could challenge for the gold, I think bodes well.
Speed skating is another arena where Korea has made its mark with 20 Olympic golds to date. This time, skaters including Kim Min-sun and Lee Na-yeon are expected to lead the charge. Figure skating also carries historic weight as 3rd-time Olympic participant Cha Hyun aims to finally deliver Korea's first ever Olympic medal in men's figure skating. And beyond the ice, a new story might be unfolding in snow, where athletes like Cho Hyun could deliver surprises and keep the door open for an unexpected medal.
One particular athlete that I'm actually most excited to watch for these Winter Olympics, I turn to snowboarding, which is kind of weird because Korea's never been strong in snowboarding, but they have a brand new 17-year-old sensation named.
And that comes as Trey has emerged as a strong medal contender in the discipline, named by Forbes recently, following 3 international victories in the previous months. From the ice to the snow, Team Korea moves into Milan Cortina with ambition, setting its sights on at least 3 gold medals and a top 10 finish.
Lots to look forward to. Konu, then I have to ask, where is the first potential gold medal expected to come from?
Yes, so the first potential gold could come from Lee Sang-ho, the first ever Korean Olympic medalist in snow sports, who won the silver medal during the Pyeongchang Winter Games. And he will be back on his snowboard on this Sunday with a chance not only at another medal, but also at what would mark Korea's 400th Olympic medal, a milestone moment, of course. And on Tuesday, attention shifts to short track with the mixed relay event getting underway. 4 years ago, Korea was eliminated in the quarterfinals after a fall, so this time it's adding even more extra motivation. And then on Friday, rising snowboard star Cho Hyun
will take on a stacked field that includes Chloe Kim, the Korean-American superstar chasing a third Olympic title in the same event. And on the 14th, Cho Hyun skates in the men's free program, aiming for Korea's first ever Olympic medal in men's figure skating after finishing just 0.11 points off the top spot at the recent Four Continents Championships. Meanwhile, Canadian data analytics firm Shoreview Sports Analytics projects Korea to win 3 gold medals, naming Kim Gil-lee in the women's 1,500 meters, the women's 3,000-meter relay, and Choi Ga-eun in snowboarding as the top gold medal contenders.
I see. And the opening ceremony is just hours away now. Kano, what are some highlights to look out for?
Right. So even before the actual ceremony, one of the highlights comes from the torch relay where Cho Hyun of K-pop boy band ENHYPEN, a former National Reserve figure skater, took part, adding star power to the ceremony. So why don't you first take a listen to what he said?
정말 영광이었고 이 올림픽의 한 여정을 여러분들과 함께 할 수 있어서 정말 기뻤습니다. 그리고 제가 피겨스케이트를 하면서 꿈꿨던 올림픽을 이렇게 가수 엔하이픈 성원으로서 올 수 있게 되어서 정말 행복합니다. 우리 국가대표 선수분들이 그동안 정말 열심히 피와 땀을 흘리며 정말 노력했다는 것을 모두가 알고 있는데요. 정말 이번 올림픽 좋은 성과 있었으면 좋겠습니다.
And now during the actual ceremony, Team Korea will march 22nd in the parade of nations based on alphabetical order as the countries listed as Repubblica di Corea in Italiano with a C among 92 countries. And the flag bearers this time are figure skating star Cho Hyun and long track speed skater Park Ji-woo. And what's notable is that it's the first time a figure skater will serve as Korea's flag bearer.
Something to look forward to, and fingers crossed for Team Korea. Kanu, thanks for the coverage.
All right, thank you.
A blast of cold air has swept back in around the country, and cold wave warnings have been issued in more areas. Temperatures plunged to minus 8.2 degrees Celsius this morning in Seoul, and this cold spell isn't going anywhere tomorrow either. Even during the day, it will stay freezing cold, especially in center areas. In addition, heavy snow is forecast in the Jeollado provinces and on Jeju Island tomorrow and the day after, so be sure to be prepared for possible heavy snowfall. Seoul will start off at minus 12 degrees tomorrow morning with Daejeon at minus 11 degrees. Highs will rise up to minus 4 degrees in Seoul, minus 2 degrees in Chuncheon and Daejeon. A dry weather advisory has also been added for Seoul, and dry conditions will spread further across eastern areas. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.